So it was near the end of 2021 and I was reading Normal People. Yes, I know. After all the hype moved on to Beautiful World, Where Are You and the TV show. I'm a latecomer to everything. But why even bother after all that time? Well, let's just say curiosity got the better of me. I mean, there must have been a good reason why a non-genre novel became so popular, right? Let's take a look at the sales of literary fiction. They're not good. So why was her publisher Faber and Faber pouring endless resources into marketing Beautiful World? Well, I think I have the answer. You see, Rooney's writing does one thing really well. It captures our lives almost perfectly. And by our lives, I mean our insecurities, what makes us happy, the things that matter to us. You get the gist. Thing is, a lot of that's mundane. So often in life we think things are way more important than they actually are. Especially when we're teenagers. Then your partner is definitely the one, your parents definitely want to stunt your development, and Black Veil Brides is definitely the best band working today. But when we look back on this stuff, we realise how little it really meant in the grand scheme of things. In reality it was all, well, a bit mundane. And that's the thing, Rooney's writing isn't that inspiring. Most of the time it's pretty dull. Listen to the opening lines of Normal People. Marianne answers the door when Connell rings the bell. She's still wearing her school uniform, but she's taken off the sweater, so it's just the blouse and skirt, and she has no shoes on, only tights. It's like that for the whole novel, just pure mundane description. So why did it become so big? Well, long story short, because our lives are mundane, and we'd like to know other people's are too. Now, I'm not saying none of us live exciting lives. I mean, Tom Cruise literally jumped off a cliff on a bike in the last Mission Impossible. But most of us aren't Tom Cruise. And we can't deny all of us experience large stretches of our lives where nothing much seems to happen. It gets taken up by routine, hearing about what our friends' friends are doing and how we're not good enough. So for that to make up a whole novel, why wouldn't that excite a lot of us? I mean, these are our very real feelings getting validated. When a novel like that takes off, we're basically seeing loads of people who are relating to the exact same thing as us. But that's just scratching the surface of the Sally Rooney phenomenon. Because overall, I want to suggest that everything is relatable. I don't mean that literally, of course. But then again, I kind of do. Don't believe me? Then let's take a look at the biggest cultural phenomenon of the 21st century. But first, a brief history lesson. The mass media really came into being in the last decade of the 19th century and blew up in the early 20th with the increase of printed newspapers and the advent of the cinema. This was a time where it became easier for governments to announce their policies on a mass scale, for people to know what was going on in the country and across the world. Basically, people became a lot more informed about things. And they went out. A lot. Statistics show that cinema attendance went from 26 million viewers every week in the 1900s to 50 million in 1914. And they made loads of money, which is why the Americans kept pouring loads more into it. And so the birth of Hollywood and, more importantly for this video, its film stars. You see, why I'm focusing on the cinema is that it relates to something far more personal than a newspaper. A headline could scream about the start of the Great War, but it would be something abstract happening across the Channel or the Atlantic or wherever. There's a reason young men of the participating nations were rushing to volunteer to fight. But the cinema displayed something inevitably human. At the start, at least, the novelty of the medium is what made people come back. It was actual moving people being beamed onto a screen, for goodness sake. Over the years, in the late 20s for Hollywood, earlier for Europe, the medium became more sophisticated. It was also what the stories told the audience that mattered. Love, heartbreak, intrigue. The audience started to care about what and who they were seeing on screen, not just the pure experience of it. They wanted the best performances from the best actors. That's one big reason Hollywood spent more to bring the best European talents across the Atlantic. Plus, there's the brute fact that the cinema was just more accessible than the theatre, concert hall or whatever else. It's the same now. Minus IMAX screenings, maybe. Especially in the US, films were made cheaply and more or less exclusively for profit. In 1914 it cost just 5 cents to see The Nation.
So you had the perfect combination, cheaply provided profitable entertainment that created a connection between the audience and its stars. But back to the main point.
Unlike the other arts, cinema lends itself to relatability on a human level. Don't get me wrong, other mediums can obviously make us feel very profound emotions in relation to humanity or whatever else, but often these emotions are too abstract for us to pin them down to a specific source, like the way a person's face can contort when they're sad or in pain.
Actors on the screen expressing these feelings, though, creates an immediate and intimate connection.
It's the closest we get to having someone right in front of us expressing something. It's powerful stuff, even if it does risk becoming samey after a while. No wonder Goebbels thought it was a great medium for propaganda. Hollywood saw the potential to monetize this connection pretty early on. Pretty soon it had its stars being photographed in their homes doing normal people stuff.
Sorry, had to slip that in.
But why was that? Well, to sell more magazines. One week you give people that snippet of information about their favourite star, along with the most recent photos, then in next week's magazine another, and so on. Celebrity culture as we know it today was born. Basically every celebrity-oriented magazine today is a direct descendant of these publications. But even Hollywood, which has always had its eyes on the next jackpot, couldn't have anticipated just how marketable relatability would become. If you think about one unique thing about the 21st century, what is it? It's not MP3 players or even mobile phones. These existed in the previous century. I mean, the smartphone was just an update of those big black bricks we see in the films from the 90s. So what's so new now?
That's right. It's what you're using right now.
You see, social media fundamentally changed the landscape for relatability-centered content. Now Hollywood doesn't have to have these normal people campaigns anymore.
Celebrities, whether by themselves or through someone else, have personal accounts to show people how normal they are.
On a major film set, just another day at work. With an A-list celebrity, but we're getting a Starbucks just like you. Remember a few years ago when celebrities like Will Smith and Jason Momoa made YouTube accounts? There's a reason for that.
YouTube is the platform of relatable content par excellence.
See, YouTubers are basically celebrities who could be your friends. I mean, even before being a YouTuber was a thing, YouTube started out as a platform where short, stupid but funny videos would get published and maybe go viral because they were about things that might happen to us in real life. Remember Boxy? Which one of us didn't have an internet crush? The elephant? Who hasn't made such a stupid joke to friends? The frozen pool? Who hasn't hurt themselves doing something dumb and had their friends laugh about it? There was a reason we were attracted to these videos in the first place, and relatability was it. And from that grew the concept of the celebrity friend. Sure, to be a good YouTuber you had to have some sort of talent for comedy, oration or whatever, but the important thing was that it didn't have to be incredible. Such high standards only became relevant once million subscriber YouTubers started becoming more commonplace.
Think about your favourite skits on YouTube. Which ones would have made it into Hollywood or mainstream TV? Be honest. Very few, if any.
But that doesn't matter, because they might as well have been filmed by our talented friends, or ourselves. We never expected auteur-level stuff here. This type of relatability being so intrinsic to the content is the big difference between traditional mainstream media and social media. For the former, it's just not essential. At most, it's just an extra detail or two. When we watch someone like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, do we think, oh yeah, that guy could be my friend? Or, oh, I could definitely play a role like this too?
I mean, some of us might, hopefully just for point two, but most of us would just take his performance for what it is.
Stunning, and something none of us, let alone many other professional actors, could achieve. And although we might be interested in what Robert De Niro did to prepare for the role, there are far fewer of us who are probably really interested in what he's like as a person. What he does just doesn't rely on that. But as soon as we sense that a YouTuber is changing, there's a much bigger chance we want to know why, and a much bigger chance we'll jump ship if it's something we don't like. Why? Because who a YouTuber really is so tied up with their craft. Again, they could be one of your friends.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not denigrating the content that YouTubers produce.
That would be silly, seeing as they're not trying to make something classic that will affect us profoundly or that we'll remember for the rest of our lives.
And it's not just YouTube that's responsible for the culture of relatability as we know it today.
After all, there are far more active celebrities on Instagram and Twitter than on YouTube. But it has become a large part of the media many of us consume, and we've grown more attuned to this way of viewing things. It's no wonder the number of TV shows has exploded over the last decade or so. Shows, more so than films, allow us to follow a group of characters and their development over a longer period of time. We see them go through things we, or someone whom we know, might have. We relate to them more. It's no coincidence that endless sequels and crossovers are the in thing now. So why else do companies like Disney want to make sure that every possible group of people is being represented in films and shows? Why else are the members of BTS's lives laid out before us via live streams?
Because it's relatable, and thus profitable.
We want to see people in films who remind us of ourselves. We want to be able to debate about why our favourite member of a band is definitely the best because of X they did and Y they said and Z they wrote. But then when it comes to things where there's no way we can relate to the characters, think The Witcher, for example, or relate to how much of a geek Henry Cavill is for having read all the books, and ignore the fact that it's a terrible adaptation and instead give it more publicity than it deserves in itself. I could go on about the Sally Rooney phenomenon for hours. There are countless examples of it.
But to be honest, you're probably better off looking for them yourself. Or more likely, they'll find you.
For now, I want to turn to something Rooney herself said.
The transactional nature of relationship.
You see, we find something relatable outside our immediate relations. Friend groups, family, co-workers, when we've entered into a relationship with it. And we choose to engage with it by exchanging our time, attention, and money. Because even if you're scrolling through social media, you're generating ad revenue for the platform and creators. It's not about laughing with a friend about something small and, let's face it, probably a name that's relatable. It's about pointing out how that character in the show is so totally me because they're so hyper all the time, or how J-Hope is my spirit animal because he eats during interviews, or how this famous YouTuber does the same things I do. And the more this is discussed, the more it generates clicks. And the more it generates clicks, the more it generates money. The more it generates money, the more the big guns will do what they can to capitalize on the trend. In the end, the popularity of Sally Rooney's book sums this point up well. Relationships can, in the right circumstances, become nothing more than commodities.
Thank you so much for watching this video. This is the first time I've really done YouTube seriously, so if you did enjoy this video, then please subscribe, like, it really helps with traction, especially this early on in the channel's history. If you enjoy these sorts of commentary style videos about topical issues, yeah, I hope I can keep producing content that's similar, and yeah. Thank you again.